Hello everybody, it's Kep here. This is a totally unscripted video on this Styanax build I have been working on. I just want to let you know I've been working on this build since before Dante Unbound. However, Styanax's new Augment makes this build tons and tons and tons better. And to be honest, I was hesitant on even making a video about it up until Styanax's Augment had dropped, and then I realized how it acts. So super quickly, I'm going to show you exactly how this Augment functions, and I'm going to take it off so I can show you what it likes to do. So we have 18 enemies over here. I'll test it properly on some actual heavy gunners and stuff like that so you can realize I am killing things pretty efficiently. But you can see over here, if I toss Axios Javelin and it hits the ground, it's not going to give the pull. But if you impale an enemy, it will give the pull. And the range is about 22 meters, I'm pretty sure. Which is a little bit misleading if we go to the abilities tab over here and we look at Axios Javelin. It says the range is 72 meters. I'm pretty sure that's actually the throw range. And the explosion range is 21 meters. So I would assume that 21 meters is actually the suck, and the range itself is actually the throw range. But now you know how that works. We're going to put his Augment back on, and I don't want you to look at the build just yet. And we're going to put Axios Javelin ears on. So when I first saw this Augment, I had assumed that it would actually spawn in two like physical specters that would walk around and throw javelins at enemies, just as like a passive CC. So, you know, maybe like an on-call crewmate or something like that. Somebody who would physically walk around and spawn specters for you. But that's not the case. That's not how it works. It actually works like your final stand does, where it'll spawn two specters to your left and right, and they will throw your javelins. But something in that ability description is very interesting, is you no longer need to impale an enemy to get the pull. And this changes everything. And I think that right now, Styanax probably has the best grouping ability in this game. So if we come over here, you can see we just toss the javelins and they all get pulled into it. And this is lovely. There is a second part about this Augment as well that states that if an enemy is impaled, it will extend the duration of that javelin by 5 seconds. This does scale off of duration or strength. I can't really remember. But if we come over here, you can see these enemies here that have been impaled will now sit there for 5 extra seconds, depending on the enemy that you've hit. And you can tell you've had an extended duration by the spear that's going through. So you see that the spear over here to the right actually missed the enemies, and that means that they won't get the extended duration. So yeah, that is Styanax's Augment. I think it's really funny, because in this build I have subsumed Styanax's fourth off, which you might be thinking, oh my god, Kep, what are you doing? That's so crazy. I think it's stale. I think it's really, really boring to run into a mission and then do nothing but press Styanax's fourth, and dear god, if I need to listen to another 5 minutes of Styanax moaning in my ear, I'm gonna go insane. So I got rid of it. But it's okay, because we have Final Stand at home. I always like showing that to my friends because it's the funniest thing. So let's get right into the build over here. This is going to be a pseudo-immortal shield getting build. If you have seen, there might have been a build floating around on YouTube of Equinox doing kind of the same thing, getting shield per kill with her mend ability, her fourth on the night form. This is kind of something similar, but you do get the amazing grouping and the energy regen and the armor strip and a huge amount of damage. It's basically just better than that in every way possible. I do have two versions of this build, one with Wrathful Advance and one with Roar, and I'll show you exactly how they operate. But yeah. Hiccup! Okay. So you can see over here I have one casting speed shard. This casting speed shard is specifically for rally point. It just makes it a ton more accessible to use, and you don't really need to burn your rolling guard in order to use it, which is what I had to do before I put the shard on. I have 3 shield shards, and you'll see why. You can actually, Styanax doesn't need anything else. You could do like a purple melee shard, but then you'd need to form him again in order to get his energy back up, and you'll see why I'm using 450 energy in a second here. But right now this build works perfectly fine. If anything, I would just put more shield shards in here, just to get it even higher, make that shield gate even stronger than it already is. So yeah, let's head into the upgrade over here. This is Sun God Styanax, and then there's also an alternate version with Roar, which I'll get into. But you might, at first glance, you might be seeing 199 strength, and you'll be like, oh, Keb, you don't have a 100% defense reduction on your Tower Strike. And that's okay, because Molt Augmented, you're going to need, 5 kills, and then you're going to get the 100% defense strip. It's perfectly fine. I think this build works just fine. The only thing I'm really ever using this defense strip is for Acolytes, and it does that really well. So yeah, we have Transient Fortitude, Prime Continuity, Normal Flow, and the reason we're using Normal Flow and not Prime Flow over here is I can still fit Prime Flow, but I really, really, really hate looking at 641. And 450 is just so clean. And let me tell you, you're going to have the energy. Rally Point is going to regen your energy way faster than you're ever going to need it. Because this build has no negative efficiency, you don't need to worry about your energy at all. At all. You can go through an entire mission and never dip below 100. It doesn't matter how hard you spam these abilities, you're still going to regen through killing Eximus and, just standard energy orbs and your Rally Point. You're going to be completely fine. That's what's lovely about this build, is he can keep going and going and going. There's no reset needed. There's no energy pads, maybe aside from the very first one at the mission to get your Rally Point, because you don't spawn enough with the initial energy. But aside from that, you've got as much as you'll ever need, which is lovely. You see over here, Prime Sure-Footed is necessary. Unfortunately, I know the reputation this has from a couple of different fun little Warframes, not Warframes, little Warframe players, but Prime Sure-Footed is good because Styanax is a melee frame. I wouldn't recommend this on a Warframe that's like a gun frame or anything like that, because you can just play a little bit smarter and you should be fine. But Styanax is a melee frame, and he's going to be getting knocked over a ton, and if you get knocked on your ass in Steel Path, you are basically dead. So this is super duper useful. If you don't have Prime Sure-Footed, you can use Handspring. They work more or less the same. Rolling Guard and Adaptation here. You don't technically need Adaptation, but let me tell you, it helps a ton when it comes to your survivability in Steel Path. And I know that Adaptation might not be entirely viable at level cap, which is why this is kind of your free slot here. You are free to put whatever you want in this slot. I just have it as Adaptation. But yeah, so Flow, Umbral Intensify, Stretch, Rolling Guard. This is a pretty standard build. I have Arcane Strike and then Molt Augmented. If you wanted to make this build even better... Sorry, I'm making weird noises. Allergies are kicking in. If you want to make this build even better, you can use Arcane Aegis, which it says 3%, but that 3% procs a fucking lot when you're taking 90% less damage. So yeah. So let me really quickly show you Rally Point and its kills. Actually, no, I'm going in reverse here. So yeah, Rally Point will restore your shield per kill, but what not a lot of people know is it will restore your shield even through a shield gate. So if your shields reach 0, Rally Point will bring them back from 0, which is good and bad because... it will replace your really nice good shield gate with a really bad one. But that's okay, because we have a synergy with the Racked Dark Dagger. Some of you may have seen the Racked Dark Dagger in some certain builds, because it has this very, very juicy perk, which is Mind Haze over here. So we don't care about the first part of this ability, or perk, but we do care about the second, which is damage to enemies affected by radiation status effect, leeches 5% of the damage's shields, which is super, super cool. And something you don't entirely consider about this is it doesn't matter if it's the radiation damage proc, it's any enemy that has radiation on them, this weapon will lifesteal. So this offers up a very interesting synergy with maybe some primers. If you had a primer secondary or a primer primary like the Bubonico or something like that, you can put radiation damage on them, and this will let you immediately lifesteal from them. However, in this version of the build, it's not entirely necessary. So you see I do have a riven over here. This riven is used for the crit version of this build. And you can see over here I'm running Wrathful Advance. So I really just like Wrathful Advance, and I like having fun, and I know that Wrathful Advance is still really freaking good. So that's why I'm using it here. I will show you the version with Roar as well, and you use the Roar version with no Riven over here. But this is a crit build for the meantime, so you can use this if you wanted to experiment. You do not need the Riven to do the crit build, but I'm specifically using it because I have this Riven here, and I know that it might be marginally better if you use the non-crit version with Roar instead. But yeah, basically, let me show you exactly what happens here. Mind you, this is in the simulacrum, so everything is kind of in a little bit of a bubble, and it might be hard to explain or show you exactly how things work here. But I'm just going to take a bunch of damage here. And you can see my health is, my shields are completely maxed again. And I'm still regenerating shields through a lot of that damage there. And you can see that the bleed procs that I'm doing to enemies, because they have a radiation proc on them, they're regenerating their shields. And just like that. So my shields are right back up again. Life is dandy, life is lovely, I can teleport wherever I want. And that basically shows you kind of it shows you kind of how exactly this build operates and how Styanax is nigh unkillable when it happens. Essentially, when you get that kill and it jumpstarts your shields, all these slash procs that you've spread onto enemies with melee influence on your dagger, because those enemies are also suffering from a radiation proc, that means that you are lifestealing 5% of the slash proc damage you did to that enemy all the time. So as long as that slash proc lasts on that enemy with melee influence or the electric proc or anything like that, because they have radiation damage, they're going to be returning your shields. You basically get kind of an infinite feedback loop of running through enemies with melee influence, being able to leech shields off of them, getting your shields broken, and then returning them immediately. And the best part about this is because when your shield does break, you will get that shield gate, and you will have time to kill another enemy. And in an actual game, the lovely part about this is because Styanax's first ability is so strong now, you can just absolutely run through crowds and you can do whatever you want. So his survivability in game is actually quite a bit better. Yeah, that's basically the build. I'm gonna cut to some gameplay on mod, but before I do that, I'm really quickly gonna show you the non-Riven build with Roar instead, because some of you mainstream people might be interested in that. You'll see that the Roar build has changed a tiny bit. Rally point is giving you slightly less shields and slightly less energy per kill, but that's okay. Not energy per kill, energy rate. But the build is kind of the same. Your general strength is lower, but you do have precision intensify, which means that your Roar is getting a giga buff. So your Roar is going to be having a ton of extra damage. But yeah, so the build is more or less the same, just corrosive projection instead of steel charge. And then, yeah, Molt Augmented as normal. Molt Augmented will make up for the 77% Thorough Strike strip. You just need to make sure it's all stacked up. But I will really quickly show you what this looks like. And as I said, I do believe it's actually marginally better having a Roar instead of... yeah, you can see over there, enemies just kind of fall over. Because they're all grouped up so tightly, it is forcing me into a finisher animation, like the downstab animation. But you do actually want your Tennokai to proc, because that force slash proc on the dagger is going to be doing quite a bit of damage. There we go. So yeah, as I said, it's marginally better. Enemies will die faster with Roar, so I will take the Roar version into mod on Steel Path, and I'll see you there.
Their rage is vehement, their focus impressive. Give them all warriors' death.
Okay. Thank you, Teshin. So we are going to use one energy pad so we can get the rally point up. But yeah, all we need to do is run around, and I did not mean to heavy attack there, that's fine. The lovely part about having a ton of enemies clumped up into one area is your melee counter is super fast to build up, so you do not need to worry about it. And look at that beautiful melee influence. We are just rolling from room to room here without a care in the world. We have a huge pull in the area over here that we can use these javelins for, and we can just kind of run from room to room. Styanax makes a little sound when his rally point expires, and fortunately his rally point and his roar actually operate on a very similar cooldown, so you can have a very easy time trying to discern when you should be popping your abilities again. And as you see, as I'm running around with all the energy that's around me and all the energy I'm getting, I'm basically not running out of any energy at all, and I have basically infinite energy. See over here, I'm at 188 for my Molt Augmented, and I'm finally fully armor stripping enemies. So it's pretty easy. I don't remember exactly how many kills you need until your Thauer Strike starts completely armor stripping with Molt Augmented, but it is not much at all, especially if you're running in Steel Path missions. You can see over here, Overguard is a little bit of a pain, but that bleed damage from the double dip on Roar is going to be helping you a ton. And yeah, crowds just kind of disappear. You see that Blitz Eximus hit me. My Doriga actually replenished my shields instantly. Another good benefit about running a Sentinel with that Guardian mod allows you to kind of keep your shields in an even better state as what they were, and it lets you really kind of jumpstart your shield gate. But yeah. Another added benefit of having enemies so closely grouped up as well is because you have a really good chance on the follow-through to proc your melee influence. Something not a lot of people know about daggers is they actually have an incredibly good follow-through stat, as far as I know, so they can hit many enemies at once. So when they're all grouped up like this, you're going to be proccing your melee influence a lot. And that's exactly what you need in order to do all your good damage. Just like that. So yeah, you're basically just sitting there waiting for your Tennokai to proc, because that 4-slash proc with melee influence is what's going to be killing things. But yeah, I can just run from room to room. You don't really need to focus on all that shield gating up until, you know, they're starting to do enough damage for you to do that. But as you can see over here, I'm just going to let my shield break. Just like that, and I'm immediately up to my 2500, and sometimes you can go to 3k as well. I'm not entirely sure how to get there because it does hover around 2500. But yeah. Another benefit about having radiation proc spreading on melee influence as well is you do get the added effect of enemies just being radiated around you. So they're actually looking at you quite a bit less than they are, you know, looking at each other. So you'll be able to have a little bit of CC when it comes to that as well. But yeah, this is just the new way to play Styanax. No longer, you know, relying on his 4. Styanax is extremely viable. And to be honest, it's a little disheartening seeing a lot of these Warframe YouTubers pumping out videos about Styanax 4 because it's just really brain dead. I've never understood Warframe players trying to play the game less. I always want my APM to be high. I always want to be engaged when I'm playing, and this is definitely a really fun playstyle, especially when you have a massive, you know, 21 meter pull that you can do, and you can basically just clear out room per room with melee influence. So yeah. The lovely part about this Axios Javelinier's Augment too is you can just toss it right at your feet. You don't need to worry about that. I got an Xbox friend, which is bizarre. I don't think I've used Xbox in a while, or Xbox Online. You see our Acolyte over here. His shields are gone, and he's going to die really fast. I do know that crit weapons are better against Acolytes, which definitely having Wrathful Advance helps a ton with that. But he dies pretty quickly without any armor, so it's not like you need to worry a ton about that. But yeah, The only thing I would recommend for this build really is having some melee dexterity arcanes on your primary and secondary weapon to keep your combo counter up. Just, you know, in between fights, if you ever are running in between a room, it is always nice to have your combo counter up because you are going to be dealing a ton more status. But yeah, that is 5 minutes in the void. Look at all these enemies, and they're all grouped up, and they're all gone. Except for this heavy gunner here. He's just gonna bleed to death. But yeah. Our sentinel gave us a little bit of breathing room over there. And remember, you do have your rolling guard. Rolling guard, in my opinion, is only really something you should really have to fall back on if you absolutely know you should. It's kind of there for human error. Because, you know, you occasionally might get hit by a Blitz Xmas, or you might just be in a really bad spot where you're away from an enemy to kill. Rolling guard will help you get to them. You also have Vazarin that you can use as well, which will help you with that. But yeah, that's the mock gameplay, and I'm super happy with it. I'm pretty sure the KPM is a little bit on the low side considering we are roaming. It's about maybe 105 KPM, which is fairly okay because we're just roaming around in Solo Steel Path. Obviously, you're gonna get more if you're with the squad doing this side or the other. But yeah, that's the Styanax build. This is the new way to play Styanax. This is my Sun God Styanax. You guys have a great day.